Hello, everybody. This is Card Guy Chris Ellis,
Collectible Chris.
and we are here for our this week regular show, and we're going to go with.
Let's go ahead and start off with our players of the week for week 7, right before the Bears and Pats for the Monday night game. Our and I think we both agreed on player of the week, correct?
Yeah, for offense. Oh yeah.
All right. Player of the week offensively was Joe Burrow for Cincinnati. Had a tremendous game, went 34 for 42 with 481 yards passing, 3 TDs with a rushing touchdown. Bengals decided to destroy the Falcons in that game. For defense, rookie of the week, we also agreed on rookie of the week, correct? With Mr. Kenneth Walker III.
Yep.
With Seattle, 168 rushing with 2 TDs. Race Hall got hurt, but he still had a decent game. Defense, player of the week, who are you going with?
I'm going to go with the linebacker from. What was it from Green Bay?
Quay Walker.
No, I'm going with DeAndre Campbell. It's from.
Ooh, okay.
I want to make sure I got the right team. Yep, Green Bay. He had 7 tackles, 5 assists for 12 total, and he had 1 interception for a touchdown.
Okay, true. All right. Mine, I'm actually going with a Kansas City defensive player, strong safety, Juan Thornhill with 9 tackles, 2 assisted with 1 interception.
That's a good one. Yeah. Who we got talking about card wise this week? The West.
Yes, NFC West, and we're gonna go from first to last. It's actually a close division. So first, it's gonna be the Seattle Seahawks. Personally, I collect Tyler Lockett. I think he's one of the best wide receivers. He just gets overshadowed a lot by DK Metcalf, just because he's thrown the ball a lot. But everyone forgets Tyler Lockett was a special team specialist too. And if y'all remember Madden 16, Tyler Lockett was a beast when you got that rookie card. Legend-wise, I do collect Marshawn Lynch and Steve Largent. Lynch just being a beast in Seattle, and people remember him in Seattle more than his rookie years with Buffalo. Other people that people should collect, though, Geno Smith, I'm still questionable on him, but people should at least get his rookie card just because of his resurgence. I think he'll be a good quarterback for the next few years with them. I think they even gave him a contract extension, so I would look at that. DK Metcalf, of course, Ole Miss receiver. Older players, Sean Alexander, one of the best running backs in the 2000s. Matt Hasselbeck doesn't get a lot of credit for being a decent quarterback. Russell Wilson, of course. Cam Chancellor, the middle linebacker Wagner, and of course from that unstoppable defense from the 2000s, Earl Thomas and Richard Sherman.
A lot of people like to collect Brian Bosworth because of the short career. He was a good college player, but his rookie card always gets some interest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone remembers his little beef with Bo Jackson.
Yeah. Another one for Seattle, you can look at Kurt Warner, the running back, not the quarterback. Dave Craig. Trying to think of Sean Springs, who was a good corner in the 90s. Was Joey Galloway, wide receiver.
Oh, yeah.
From Ohio State. So there's some good Seattle Seahawks ones definitely out there. Kenneth Walker III probably right now.
Oh, yeah, that'll be the
rookie to get. So there's definitely players there you could definitely get.
Oh, yeah. I see Hawks mainly known more for defense than offense, but with the Russell Wilson era, definitely.
Yeah.
Second team, the LA Rams. I personally collect Aaron Donald, one of the best defensive players, especially defensive linemen in the game. Older players, I do collect Eric Dickerson, Marshall Faulk, Kurt Warner, and Isaac Bruce. I started building my PC last year on those since I started collecting Hall of Fame rookie cards, so those are always nice to get as well. Kurt card is still very valuable right now, especially his Bowman one. So y'all can get his hands on his Bowman one, Lord. But other players, of course, Matthew Stafford currently. Cooper Kupp is a good one to get. Cam Akers is still questionable, but his rookie card is still worth a little bit of money. If you want to go back in 2000, Steven Jackson was a beast with his years with the Rams. Sam Bradford's if you're a Oklahoma fan, Sam Bradford is a rookie card you should get if you're an Oklahoma fan, just because he had a good few years and then he just tainted right after Jared Goff showed up. So
yeah, there's definitely, you talked about Bruce, right?
yeah, Isaac Bruce. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Flipper Anderson, Jim Everett had a decent career there.
Oh yeah.
Jerome Bettis was around before he was a Steeler.
Yep.
I mean, you got. I mean, there's. I mean, the Rams have had that on and off again over the years, but you pretty much got like Kevin Green. Don't forget about him.
Oh yeah, Kevin Green was a rookie.
Yeah, and played for the Rams for many years. So, so who are we going to go to next? The Cardinals.
Cardinals. Personally, I collect J.J. Watt, and of course, legends Larry Fitzgerald and Patrick Pearson started with the Cardinals, and so did Tyrann Mathieu. I'm not a Honey Badger fan, but Tyrann is still a guy people should collect, especially his time with New Orleans right now. And Arizona really doesn't get a lot of love. Really, I mean, if you want to talk about like Carson Palmer, Kurt Warner, veteran quarterbacks that helped the franchise to get back to the playoffs. Warner, of course, faced the Steelers in that amazing Super Bowl game. Great defensive game, honestly. One of my favorites ever watching. And of course, they always had good running backs that just got hurt too quickly, like David Johnson. David Johnson was a beast his rookie year.
Well, you also got Edgar and James was there.
Yeah.
I mean, Emmitt Smith played his final years in Arizona. For the older people, like Neil Lomax. I'm trying to think of the older player for the Cardinals. Can't think of his name off the top of my head. I mean, they had...
Otis?
Otis Anderson was one.
Yep.
Pat Tillman's another one that's very collectible. Fitzgerald and Arenas Williams.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's some good people. I mean, Simeon Rice. Anquan Bolden for a minute was a good wide receiver. So there's some good Cardinals to look at. Current and former. I mean, there's Seth Joyner for sure. So who we got?
The last team that is tied with the Cardinals, the Niners. Personally, I collect anybody with the Niners that I think that's made an impact. Especially for me, of course, like I was a big fan of Vernon Davis. I collected Vernon Davis. Of course, Alex Smith, Frank Gore, Patrick Willis, one of the best linebackers that retired too early, in my opinion. But, of course, injuries caught up with him, just like Luke Kuechly with Carolina. Willis should be a Hall of Famer, that's my opinion, because he was built like Ray Lewis, and everyone compared him to Ray Lewis. So, like... And, of course, there's a whole bunch of legends and players that just played with him. Brandon Lloyd, great wide in the 2000s, played with multiple teams. Jerry Rice, of course, Joe Montana, Steve Young. If you want to go old school, Dwight Clark, the tight end that made the awesome catch against the Cowboys. Richard Sherman, of course, played a few years. Joyner, Alden Smith. I mean, I can go on and on.
Did you get Lott and
Ronnie Lott? Yeah.
Craig?
I didn't get Roger Craig.
Okay, well, you got Lott, Craig. I mean, even John Taylor's a little bit popular. He was like the second wide receiver of the Rice all those years. Brent Jones, Charles Haley, Ken Norton Jr., Deion Sanders, T.O., Terrell Owens.
Michael Crabtree.
Yeah. Even Anquan Bolden played with you. Randy Moss played with you guys.
Torrey Smith did, former Raven.
Yep. So, and now you got Kittle at tight end. So I mean, there's plenty of people at defense, offense.
And of course, the big trade with Christian McCaffrey this week, and him playing his first game with the Niners, I didn't do too bad as well. 10 touches for 62 yards rushing. I mean, and I stick with Smith, Montana, Young. Some people still collect Colin Kaepernick just because of the controversy he made. Understandable. You can collect Jimmy Garoppolo. He is still in that. I tend to be yes, you can collect him. No, you shouldn't collect him. He's one of those that flip flops. Trey Lance, you should still collect him, even though he got hurt. He's still a young quarterback that will have a bright future. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people in the West that definitely collect.
Oh yeah.
So the top 5 college players of all time is what we're on next, or are we doing the picks?
Oh, you want to do the picks next?
We'll do the picks.
All right. Week 8 predictions. Oh, and I meant to say this. On Week 7 predictions, both me and Dad were both 8-5, or right before the Bears and Pats. So we're going to stay over 500 for predictions this week for Week 7. Pats win, we'll both be 9-5. If they lose, we'll be 8-6. So.
Okay.
All right.
Good week. That was a good week of picking for both of us.
So Week 8 predictions. Thursday night, Ravens versus Bucks in Tampa Bay.
Ravens.
Ravens all the way. Just don't know what's up with the Bucks right now, especially Evans dropping that pass. That really hurt him back on Sunday. Broncos versus Jaguars in Jacksonville.
Go Jags. Jags, even though I think they lost, right?
Jags lost to the Giants, though.
They still played a pretty good game.
I'm going with Jags too, just because I think the Broncos are just not the Broncos right now. Dolphins versus Lions in Detroit.
Dolphins.
I'm going with the Dolphins too, with Tua being back. They win with Tua. Tua's undefeated as a starting quarterback. I'm going with Tua. Panthers versus Falcons in Atlanta.
I'm gonna go Falcons, even though the Panthers played one heck of a ball game, but.
I just think the Falcons have a better offense right now. Mariota has definitely shined. Cardinals versus Vikings in Minnesota.
I'm going to go Cardinals just because they got Hopkins back and they got Robbie Anderson. Probably be more involved.
I'm going with Minnesota. It's in Minnesota, and they are really good in home. So this next one we both should agree with. Bears versus Cowboys in Dallas.
Cowboys.
Cowboys, they cannot stop that defense at all. This next game is my pick for game of the week. Raiders versus Saints in New Orleans.
I'm going Raiders.
You going Raiders? I'm going Raiders too, just because I think the offense has slacked the past couple weeks.
Yep.
It just hurts. Next one, Steelers versus Eagles in Philly.
I'm going to go Eagles.
No, I'm going with Eagles too.
I think their undefeated streak keeps going.
Yeah, and Kenny Pickett is doing decent. It's just that their offense is still not producing. Pats versus Jets.
Who would have thought we would be picking the Jets in this game? I'm picking the Jets.
I'm picking the Jets too. No, don't get me wrong. Pats are doing great. They got their little winning streak, but as of right now, I prefer Zach Wilson over Mac Jones. So, the next one, Titans versus Texans.
I'm going Titans just because the running game got reestablished.
Yeah, I agree, Titans. Giants versus Seahawks in Seattle.
This could be the game of the week.
I agree.
This could be because just the way the Seahawks have been playing with Geno, Giants are really doing really well. I'm actually going to go with Seattle because of the 12th man.
Okay.
Just because it's really tough to beat Seattle at home. So I'm going to go there.
All right. Well, this is only our fourth game that we're disagreeing. I'm going with the Giants. I just think their running game's a little bit better. I think Saquon's going to be unstoppable.
Yeah.
Commanders versus Colts in Indy. Especially since Winston's hurt.
Hinkie played really good. Matt Ryan went back to being Matt Ryan. Gosh, this is a toss-up game. I'm going to go with Colts. It's in Indy, right?
Yeah, it should be in Indy.
Okay. Maybe John Taylor can do something.
Let's hope. But I'm going with Commanders, especially since Hinkie is a starter. I like Hinkie as a starter. He does well, especially against the Packers. I mean, you can that one mistake, and after that one mistake he took. Niners versus Rams.
I'm going Niners because they haven't lost to the Rams in the regular season out of 10 games.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So, yeah, I'm going Niners.
Niners are able to stop Cooper Cup. I just don't trust Garoppolo that much, but I still think the Niners will pull it off by a field goal.
Yep.
Packers versus Bills in Buffalo.
I'm going Bills.
I'm going with the Bills too. Packers might have a little losing streak. And then the Monday night game, Bengals versus Browns.
I don't like the Browns' play calling. I don't like the Browns the way they're going right now. So I'm gonna go with Bengals, and I think Joe Burrow has another game.
I think the star of the game is actually going to be the guy that is overshadowed by Jamar Chase. I think Boyd will be the receiver of the game, especially.
Oh yeah, and he could go any. He could go with any of those receivers.
Yeah,
You got Boyd, you got Higgins, you got Chase. I mean, they remind me of the old Houston Oilers with Warren Moon and his run and shoot offense.
Yeah.
So
That I will agree. Yes, that I will agree.
Yep.
Fully. All right. So, top 5 college players.
Okay, you want to go first, or you want me?
I'll start off, and we'll go. Honorable mentions, and then we'll do the.
Oh, honorable mentions. Okay, go ahead.
So my big 3 honorable mentions, and for this segment, we're going with players that we actually watched, and I say at least watch more than 5 games. So I did put Tim Tebow on my list. I did put Colt McCoy on my list. I did put Vince Young on my list. I would, especially watching highlights, but these are players I watched. So my top 3 honorable mentions: Ronnie Hillman for San Diego State, former Bronco, was a great running back. Of course, when you think of San Diego State, you think of
Marshall Faulk.
For Marshall Faulk. But Hillman was like a good establisher for San Diego State. Actually, was MVP in the bowl game his sophomore year, and he was only at San Diego State his freshman and sophomore year. And 2 quarterbacks, Marcus Mariota, of course, still currently playing, was a beast in Oregon. Went to a bowl game his junior and senior year. He got the starting position as a sophomore, took off and ran. And the other quarterback is actually a former UNC quarterback, TJ Yates. A former draft pick of the Houston Texans. I played a few games. Is now actually the wide receiving coach for the Atlanta Falcons. And it is because of his stats back at UNC. He started all 4 years from freshman to senior. Went to 3 bowl games, sophomore to senior year. Won all 3. Had a good TD interception ratio with 64 TDs and 51 interceptions. And here's the kicker. He had 5 rushing TDs, but he also has 7 receiving touchdowns in his 4 years at UNC. So I thought he was an incredible player. Was definitely a dog in the ACC. Texas record, he was 2-4, but he at least did decently. He had 7 TDs, 10 interceptions. Houston just didn't give him the ball to run with it.
Okay, honorable mentions. Obviously, I would, if this was like the Texas Longhorns team, my favorite Texas Longhorn players, I probably would have put Aaron Metcalf number 1.
Ooh.
And then, of course, Metcalf's not on this top 5 of my guys watching when I was Metcalf, Vince Young, I loved watching. I also loved watching Ricky Williams, but I also like watching, I might add a couple more in there. Eddie George. Loved watching him run at Ohio State. Great power back. And also Desmond Howard was a beast at Michigan. Nothing. I mean, so was Charles Woodson too, the first defensive player to win the Heisman. Actually, I think the only defensive player to win the Heisman still.
As of right now, yeah.
So there's a couple. I'm gonna go with my list. I'm gonna go with Notre Dame player, Rocket Ismail. In his career, he was a consensus All-American and a Walter Camp Award winner. He finished 10th in the Heisman in '89, and he finished second to Ty Detmer from BYU in '90. His career totals of rushing, he had 131 rushing attempts for 1015, 7.7 and 5 touchdowns. Receiving wise, he had 71 catches for 1,565 yards. He averaged 22 yards per catch and had 4 touchdowns. As a kick returner, he returned 46 kicks for 1,271 averaged 27.6 yards a return, and had 5 touchdowns. And as a punt returner, he had 25, 336, 13.4 return average, and 1 touchdown. He was also part of the Notre Dame team that won their last national championship in '88. Another guy I'm going to go with is from Georgia. It's Herschel Walker. In the Heisman race, in '80, he was third as a freshman. '81, he finished second as a sophomore, and his junior year, he got the Heisman Trophy. He was a 3-time consistent All-American, 3-time SEC Player of the Year. In '82, he won the Heisman, the Maxwell, and the Walter Camp Award. His rushing statistics were 94 yards for 5,259. He averaged 5.3, 49 touchdowns. Receiving wise, he had 26 receptions for 243 yards. He averaged 9.3. He had 3 touchdowns. And his kick return, he returned 14 kicks for 247 yards and 17.6 average. The next one is my favorite football player of all time. Played at SMU during the SMU bad days, as in, everything went wrong, recruiting wise and all that. It's Eric Dickerson. He was an 82 consistent All-American. He finished in the Heisman in '82 third, the same year that Herschel Walker won it.
Yeah.
He rushed for over 4,450 yards on 797 carries. He averaged 5.6 yards per carry and had 47 touchdowns. He also he had 19 catches for 191 yards, 190 yards. He averaged 10 yards a catch, and 1 touchdown. Eric Dickerson was just a big guy that could run. My next favorite player to watch was played at Florida State. Deion Sanders. He was a consistent All-American age 7, '88. He won the Jim Thorpe Award in '88 as the nation's top corner. Heisman voting in '88, he was in 8th place. Punt return wise, he had 126 punt returns for 1429. Averaged 11.3 yards a punt return and had 3 touchdowns.
Okay.
Kick return, he was 1 kick return for 26 yards. And this is where it gets interesting. He played 3 years at Florida State. His interceptions, he had 14 interceptions for 287 yards, 20.5 yards per return on interceptions. He had 3 touchdowns. So as a defensive player, as a guy, obviously you can see why the Falcons made him their number 1 pick. Now the next one is the only one that didn't really have a long or good career in the NFL. He was drafted by Detroit, but this guy did win the Heisman. He was the consistent All-American, won the Heisman in '89, and was the Davey O'Brien Award winner. Andre Ware from Houston. His statistics are as follows. He had 660 completions out of 1074 attempts for 61.5. He threw for 8,202 yards. He averaged 7.6 yards per attempt. He had 75 touchdowns and 28 interceptions.
Yeah.
And he was at a 143.4 rating. When he went to Detroit, they thought he was going to be the savior. He was more of a system quarterback at Houston, where they just said, here's the ball, throw it, and our receivers are going to catch it. Detroit didn't really try to make him into a quarterback or even try. Most people know Andre Ware now from doing ESPN games. He's one of the guys that does on the telecast on ESPN games on college football. So you just look at what he did at Houston. He was I believe he was the last of the big time throwing quarterbacks to win the Heisman. Ty Detmer had basically the same year, but had a longer career because of as being a backup. So those are my top 5 guys I watched. Of course there's more now, but those were the guys as a kid I was like, oh yeah,
All right, and now with my top five, number five, I'm going with defensive lineman Quinn Couples that played at UNC from 2008 to 2011. Appeared in bowl games all 4 years. He didn't start one game, which was the very first game as a freshman, but then the defensive player got hurt. He stepped in, and he actually got his one and only sack that year. But all 4 years, he had 80 solo tackles with 64 assisted. 40.5 of those tackles were for a loss, and then 24 sacks total in all 4 years. 10 was the most he had in 1 year with his junior. He also had five forced fumbles in his college career. He was drafted by the Jets, and his rookie year he did have 3 sacks, but after that year he was not able to really do as much of a pass rush. He was more of a stopping the running back after that, but he only played for 4 seasons. But he was just a great player for UNC. Always respected the fact he did so well. At number four, from Oklahoma, current Cowboy, C.D. Lamb. C.D. Lamb was just explosive in Oklahoma, especially with that game against Alabama. He had and he was there from freshman year to junior year. He had 173 receptions, over 3,000 yards receiving, 32 total touchdowns. He also had 9 rushing attempts for 20 yards with 1 TD. So, total 33 touchdowns, 3,312 yards. At number three, I'm going with another defensive player, and everyone still thinks I am crazy when I say this, but this guy was a shutdown corner and one of the best in the game, in my opinion. I honestly thought he was better than Tyrann Mathieu. Still think he is still better than Tyrann Mathieu. Patrick Peterson from LSU, freshman to junior year, was able to be a starter. 104 solo tackles, 31 assisted. So 135 totals, 3 for loss, no sacks, 7 total interceptions for 171 yards with 1 TD. And this is where it was like insane. Kick return, 32 receptions for 932 kick returns, but no TDs. Punt returns 27 with 424 yards with 2 touchdowns. And his rookie year in Arizona, he had 3 punt returns for a touchdown. One of them being a 77-yarder where he had to scoop back and then run. So that him now is still unbelievable. At number 2, and honestly, I could flip-flop my first and my second guys, really. But the second one, I'm going with the quarterback over the running back. This guy started all 4 years, freshman to senior year, with a team that no one thought could make it to a bowl game. And every single year, from freshman to senior year, he made a bowl game, won 2 of them. Kellen Moore from Boise State.
He was the quarterback. No, he wasn't the quarterback against Oklahoma, right?
He wasn't.
No, that was someone else. That's right.
Yeah. And he, out of 1,600 attempts passing, he had over 1,100 completions, so a 69.8 percentage. He had 14,667 yards passing, with 142 TDs and only 28 interceptions.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, his game that always screwed up his record. His perfect record was always against Nevada, and the kicker was his junior and senior year. The kicker would always miss the final field goal to either tie it or get the win. I always hated that. It was always Nevada back-to-back years, and I hated that for Kellen.
They play Boise State tough anyway.
They always do, yeah. And of course, Kellen Moore was drafted. Well, actually, no, he was signed as an undrafted quarterback. Unfortunately, he did end up with the Cowboys. He didn't get he had 1 start. He had 1 start as a Cowboy. He did get a touchdown, but 2 interceptions. And ironically enough, right now he is the quarterback and a quarterback coach for the Dallas Cowboys. So,
yep.
And
also the offensive coordinator.
Offensive coordinator, yep. And now, and I had to make sure I clicked the right one because, of course, his dad also played.
Yep.
My number one guy,
But wide receiver. He didn't play running back.
right? But my number one, ironically, is an Alabama player, and I was fortunate to meet him at his rookie year as a New Orleans Saints, and ironically, he's back with the Saints now after 10 years. Mark Ingram, the second, played with Alabama freshman and junior year, was drafted by the Saints. Of course, has played with the Ravens and now Houston, and got back with the Saints last season. And for rushes, he had 572 attempts, 3,200 rushing yards, with 42 TDs, and with receptions, he had 60 receptions for 670 yards. That's 11.2 average.
Wow.
With 4 TDs. So all in total, he was shy of 4,000 total scrimmage yards, with a total of 46 TDs. And I remember the championship game with Alabama versus Texas. Dad was really upset, especially what happened to that game. Same here. I was technically going for the Longhorns for Dad, but at the same time, I wanted Ingram to do well. Ingram had 101 yards rushing in that game. He had 1 TD that actually gave the Crimson Tide the actual win after that. Of course, Ingram still playing now. The only difference from his college days to professional is the fumbles lost. He actually has 10 more than when he had in college. He only had 4 fumbles in college compared to the 15 now in professional. But of course, when you're playing professional, people are gonna hit you a little harder than college players. So, but Mark Ingram was a great player. Of course, he won the Heisman along with Bama, and he was the first out of a long list of people to actually get it for Alabama. So,
Yep, that was good. So, what do you want to do next week?
Next week, all right. So we did our top 5 favorite rivalries, top 5 favorite players, and I mean, we can do the next week since we're done with the actual division, so we can look at the records and see, do our half season
Awards. Yep, that works. We can do that. All right. You got anything else?
I hate to say this, because honestly, this is not the World Series I wanted. No one wanted this to be the World Series, and no one predicted this to be the World Series except for one team. Houston Astros are facing the Philadelphia Phillies in the World Series. Honestly, it's either going to be a train wreck or it's going to be close games all in all. There's only one reason why I want Houston to win, and is so that Kyle Tucker can have a ring, and Verlander is still with Houston, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So Verlander getting another ring, I'll be okay with that. Dusty Baker finally getting a ring as a manager, I can respect that. But if I want to say a team, I want the Phillies to do it, just so Aaron Nola has been a great pitcher for him. I think he deserves a ring, especially coming back with the year he had. And all the young players that the Phillies have had that just emerged. And Bryce Harper finally getting to be at the big stage in his 10-plus year career. Of course, the Nationals won the World Series the year after he left Washington. So the fact that he is now in the World Series, I would like to see the Phillies win it just because of that. I think I just don't want a sweep. That's the only thing I'm worried about. And yes, everyone can laugh at the Yankees. I was laughing too because it was embarrassing. But I'm hoping it goes to Game 7. I think if anyone's going to have a Game 7 series, this is it.
Well, we honestly have no rooting interest for both teams. We like baseball, so
Yeah.
we're naturally going to watch. But I would like to see Baker finally win a World Series just to get that monkey off his back. I'm a big Kyle Schwarber fan, so I wouldn't mind him. So really, I mean, Verlander Verlander's one of my favorite pitchers. So so good luck to both teams, and of course, this is Chris Ellis, the card guy on Facebook, and
Collegible Chris on TikTok.
we will talk to you later. Bye.